Have you guys ever wondered what some people's, paranormal or ghost stories are? Well, today I'm going to share mine. So these all happened before I did my Ouija board video a few years ago, so just know that this has nothing to do in relation to the Ouija board video, but it is kind of a part 2 to the video. It's just, I'm talking about stuff that happened before. So anyways, let's get started. Just a quick disclaimer, I am not very religious, but I do believe in demons and good and bad spirits and angels. That being said, anything that I talk about will be based more on the Christian religion because of my upbringing, but it's not necessarily my views that I reflect now. So the first story is I went to go see a movie with some friends. I think it was Avengers, like Age of Ultron or something. I got home at like 9, 10, 11 o'clock at night. And so I passed out on the couch when I got home. The way that our house is, or like where I grew up, the living room was like a den area towards where the back door was. So when you exit out the back door, you had to go down some steps and then it would curve kind of around like to where, like on the asphalt, it would curve around and go up like a slight incline to the very front of the house. When you would open the gate, it would scrape the concrete below it. My dad used to get up for work about, like 5, 6 in the morning, and he would leave by like 6:15, 6:30, but he would go out the back door. So I had happened to just be asleep there. And I woke up once throughout the night and I just felt kind of like off, like something didn't feel right to me. So I decided to, just try and go back to sleep. So I did. And then about an hour later, I keep waking up with this uncomfortable feeling like something's watching me. But I'm like, you know what? Maybe I'm just having anxiety. All I remember is just waking up like with this panic feel. So then I finally fell back asleep. And I guess I'm either dreaming, but I was also awake. It was really weird. Like I was laying there and then I hear this psst sound in my ear and it really freaked me out. So I wake up and I look next to me and there's nothing next to me. So eventually it's about 3:30 at this point. I, watch a few YouTube videos and I go back to sleep. So about what felt like a few minutes later, but it was really an hour later, I ended up in that same state, half asleep, half awake, but it felt like I was very much awake. Like I knew what was going on around me. And like my dad would leave, So I remember actually hearing the back gate scrape across the asphalt, and then I'm hearing like these knocking, like hard knocking steps on the staircase. And then right when the door opens, it opens like very abruptly, and I hear this loud open and slam. And then that's when I open my eyes, and I'm looking over like towards the door. So it's like I'm going to look this way. It's right over here, and I'm laying there. And I just ended up being like, okay, something feels weird. So as I open my eyes, I see this dark figure, and I thought I had startled my dad because he forgot something and had to come back in. I'm laying there, and like this thing's looking at me, and I'm looking at it, and I don't know what the hell's going on. So my mind's trying to piece together, is this my dad? So I say, Dad, and the thing just kind of like went like that. It was really creepy. I didn't feel any threat from it. I just felt very in this weird, I'm so confused state. So then I ended up, turning on my phone's flashlight after about 2 or 3 minutes of staring at this thing, and then it completely goes away. And then I remember hearing footsteps from the back of the house going more towards like kind of by the living room area. And my dad's like, Caleb, what the hell are you doing up at, 5:30 on a Saturday morning? And after that, and that house, like where I grew up, I have not felt anything like that. Or if I have felt like something's watching me or have seen things, it never felt like a threat. There were a few times that things did feel like a threat to me though. And that leads me into the next story. So the next story is, you fast forward about 3 years later, and I had moved to Alabama. I moved in with my boyfriend at the time. And, I'm from Georgia, and so I only moved right over the state line. I remember, just feeling like we'd spent the night in one room of the house, and it felt, like I was fine. But then he was also working night shift, and I was waiting to start my new job, and I was also working night, so I was staying up late at night to kind of get me back on my night shift routine after being off for about 10 to 15 days. I'm laying there, and I feel very uncomfortable, like something's looking at me, and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I turn on the light, and I go into the living room, and I just fall asleep on the couch. And then I asked my roommates the next day about it, and one of them said, oh yeah, so in that room that you guys were sleeping in, when I was sleeping in there, I felt like something was watching me. So was right there. So I put my hand out and then I felt this force push it back. And then he said that he basically got up and ran out the door and like slept on the couch. Hearing that story, of course, it freaked me out. And I was still skeptical about everything as far as like demons and stuff like that. I was still kind of skeptical, like, was this real? So you fast forward like to the next night. So my boyfriend went to work, and I'm like, let me try this again. So I tried again, and I felt uncomfortable again. Well, I managed to go back to sleep, and then I felt like I woke up feeling really weird. So I kind of turned on a light. It had a battery, but I just put batteries in it. But then it ended up dying, and so I woke up. It's about 5:30 in the morning. It's still dark out, and I have to pee really bad. So I kind of like throw the covers off me, and as I'm like sitting up, I see this figure. It's like as tall as like the door. So from like the bottom of the door to like the top of the door, it was that tall. And it felt really, really strange. And it's just smiling at me, like with this menacing smile. I just turned on the lights, and I found a bottle to pee in, so I peed in that bottle. I was not getting up and going and trying to go pee. Where that demon apparition, I don't know. After a few restless nights, I texted my friend Hannah. I had known her since, her kids went to my school, and then like just with the church that I went to growing up, we just grew closer, and we're still friends to this day. I texted her being like, do you believe in demons? Like, do you feel like that they can be here watching you, and you can feel like a weird presence? Like, kind of like you feel really weird at a haunted house. That's how I felt in my own house. And she's like, yes, and sends me an email over like a whole like report paper thing she wrote, studying it. I'm not going to go into detail about it. It reflects Christianity. Like, okay, I'm reading, and so some of it said play Christian music, demons hate the word of God, like start saying the Lord's Prayer, this and that. So the heat had just turned off. It's the middle of winter. There's nobody home. It's just me home. And I go in there and I turn on the light, no fans are going, and I started saying the Lord's Prayer. And at that moment, I felt a very cold wind just go by me, and then this like warm feeling of like, I'm not being watched anymore. And it took about 2 or 3 months after that to really, I guess, witness another type paranormal event. So that leads into story 3, and this one's even more crazy. I'm not going to try and be graphic, but the imagery that I'm going to be talking about is very graphic. So if you don't like stuff like that, just skip over this part. I had come to Georgia to come visit some friends, decided, like I'm going to head back to Alabama early, like a day or two early. So I headed back, and my boyfriend at the time, him and I had broken up, but I was sleeping I was in a different room on the other side of the house. So I get home and I pass out like in the bed, and I remember being awake, but I wasn't in my own home. It was very, very weird. Like, I was conscious. I was there, but not in my own home. I don't know how to explain it. I just remember this, like, if you've seen Friday the 13th, the cabins and the lodges that they stay at, I'm looking, and like up here look like a scene from Friday the 13th, but then I'm laying there and I see these figures over me, and I'm guessing they're demons. I don't know, like they were laughing like demons. I don't know. I don't know what demons laugh like, but it just was very weird. If you've ever played Injustice 2, the Scarecrow character, they resembled Scarecrow a lot, but not quite. Like, I could point out the differences. They ended up being like towering over me, and I'm literally cut from here down to my belly button. So I'm bleeding everywhere. I can see my heart beating. I can see all this. My chest is cracked open. And so they're stitching me up, and I can kind of feel it. Like, I feel tugging. I'm like, this is really weird. So every other time I've had like a weird dream where I don't feel safe, I just start saying the Lord's Prayer within the dream. I guess it's lucid dreaming, but this didn't feel like a dream. It felt very real, but it's also not night terror, because it was like I'm feeling everything going on around me. I just remember basically trying to say Lord's Prayer. I can't say it. Like, I'm like paralyzed, and I'm just feeling them one by one stitch me back up. So then I decided, you know what, like, I'm going to try and scream. And as I tried to scream, all the stitches would pop, and the demons would laugh. All the stitches would pop back down. And I was like, oh shit, like, what am I going to do? And eventually I woke up. But then the next day, I was, like, my chest was very irritated. And I look, and there's this big, like, not deep, but like a scratch mark. Like, like if you're, like, in one of those pool like rings and you're in the pool like floating around and you turn too fast and it cuts you a little bit. It was kind of like that, but all the way down exactly where I was saying. And I told my roommates about it, and so we ended up getting the house blessed. I hadn't really had any other type of paranormal activity, I guess, or like, you know, encounters with those entities again. But then my last story, I was actually at work. I was a tech in the ER, and so I was going to take my break around like 3:30. I was like, I'm just going to walk out to my car and come back in to get some fresh air. I've been running around all night. I kind of need some fresh air. Well, we had a lady pass away earlier. So when you walk from the ER and like there's like the visitors hallway and then elevators and like another like and just like a bunch of walls right here, and then behind there is where the staff walks and we can take people to the morgue and whatnot. And it's very like, it felt like Halloween 2. If you know what that hospital looks like, that's what this felt like. So I'm walking and I feel like something's looking at me, so I turn around. I'm kind of about to exit, like make a turn to go out to where the back door is, and I'm just like, okay, something's like feels weird, but not threatening. So I turn around and I look, and there was this thing standing there, but then it just like, I blink and it's gone. Like, it was weird. I was like, my eyes are just playing tricks on me. Like, it's my, you know, 6 out of 7th day. I'm exhausted. So I come back in and I'm walking back by where the hallway where the morgue was, and I remember hearing like a little thank you. And I was like, huh? And so like I pace back and I start looking like that way, like down the hallway, and there, like I just see like the end of a figure like go through a door, and I was like, okay, whatever. One of the nurses was like, hey, did you hear a thank you? And I'm like, I did, and there's no one else around because I heard it too, and I don't have any patients over here. I came to get my phone because I've been moved to these rooms over here. I was like, that is really strange. That was definitely better than my other stories because it's more lighthearted. It's not dark. Like it's creepy, but it's not dark. Like, I was okay with it. So I needed to end this video on a lighter note because sometimes these stories can get a lot darker, and I've seen some YouTube videos and heard, like, I've been watching like, you know, haunted apartments and whatnot, and like the people living there like talking to a ghost box, doing that. Like, that's been what I've been watching. So I noticed that my Ouija board video was getting close to 100,000 views, which thank you guys so much for all those views. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this video, please comment and subscribe, as well as give me a thumbs up. If you haven't, go ahead and check out my Ouija board video. I'll leave the link down below, as well as put a card at the end of this video. So just keep watching through my outro and you will see it. Like I said, I'm not someone who's really religious. I just noticed that when I played with the Ouija board, it started spelling out Zozo, which is the demon. And I started researching it, and then I started watching back my video and watching other people's videos. I'm like, let me just do a ghost story time. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I will see you guys next time.